Thanks for everyone. I'm just going to give a quick half an hour on the importance of data storytelling and visualization, and mainly about getting some of the basics right that we often get wrong. So, who am I? I'm Andy Mason. I've been a data professional for over 15 years, worked in some big sector-leading organizations, but fundamentally, I am a data viz crybaby. And if anyone follows me on LinkedIn, I whinge and whinge and whinge about poor data viz. And I'm going to give you about 25 minutes of that whinging now. So the problem is there's data everywhere. Yeah, you walk around here, there's numbers thrown everywhere. You're on the radio, you watch sports, it's just data, data, data. But actually how much of it really kind of resonates with you and makes you take the desired action? The answer is not enough, really. I'll give you some examples. So King's Cross toilets, data. Go to my local national trust, and they've built a bit of data viz there. I was in my local butterfly house, and they created this monstrosity here. And yeah, even my mum's Mother's Day card was data. Yeah, so all data everywhere. Okay. Now, why does it not resonate? It's because the people around here, the people in the queue, and all at this conference were all guilty of a bit of this. So we cater for our own knowledge. We don't consider the audience. We make poor visualization choices. Sometimes we don't know what to say, so we say too much, probably like me in this next half an hour. People have an inability to comprehend big numbers, and we don't make it easy. Too much noise and throwing too much colors. Yeah, your data viz and your dashboards shouldn't look like the Las Vegas Strip or Blackpool Illuminations if you're from the north. Lack of context. And actually, the tools don't help us. The tools make it really easy to do bad practice. We can all click a button in Excel and get a 3D pie chart, and it's crazy. And it's really hard to do good practice. And the solution to making it all really kind of hit home is just effective data communication, and we'll go through a bit of it now. So why is it important? Okay, well, yeah, time is money. So your stakeholders don't have half an hour to decipher your data viz and your dashboards and things, yeah? When you're trying to persuade, you're trying to get someone to act, we need data and we need it to be clear and concise. We want people to take the right action, not the wrong action, so don't leave it for chance. And we want to inspire people to do the right thing. So, 2 weapons of mass seduction. That's what you've got in your arsenal, and it's data viz best practice, and it's data storytelling, and we'll kind of touch on those in a second. But before we do that, before we open our laptops and go into Power BI, we need to kind of take a step back and think of some basic foundational concepts. We need to think a bit like a designer. So, hands up if you've ever heard of Gestalt design principles. Yeah, some nods, good. And it's really in design, but it does correlate, and you can apply it to data viz, and you should, and I'll touch on it a little bit now. So figure and ground, it's about what your brain pushes to the front and pushes to the back and pulls to the front. So everybody sees the apple here, but actually all it is the only colour added there is black, and your brain is pushing the back to black, Amy Winehouse, and pulling the apple forward. Everyone sees Batman, yeah, everyone sees Batman. But did anybody see my silhouette of the penguin and my big nose here? No, because, and now you see it, right? And it's just because your brain is pushing colours to the back and the forth. And how does that kind of correlate to data viz? So here's something we'll have all have seen and created, kind of actuals versus budget. You've got 12 bars on a line, and they're all screaming for attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, 10 people could look at this, and 10 people could walk away with a different concept and a different meaning of what it means, yeah? And by just kind of having a point, so what's the point of it? I want to draw people's attention to where we've missed the budget, where we've fallen short, yeah? And now there's 5 bars there, and we're here to talk about those 5 bars. And you're tying the colour into the title, and that is making it really easy for the brain to say, actuals fall short of budget, and that means orange bars, and it's really simple. Some more similarity, continuity, focal point and common region. Really, it's just about our brain likes logic. Yeah? The favorite one is this. You know, I see a straight line and a squiggle line, and the color doesn't make me deviate, okay? I'll talk a little bit about that. So similarity, you know, kind of, you see it a lot on scatter charts and things like that. Color beats shapes. So here you've got, these are all related. Now these are completely distinct, even though they are the same shape. Yeah, and as you go along, you see your brain starts to putting things in a natural, logical order. Proximity and white space. So again, white space on your dashboards, that is key. Yeah, don't overcram it because you can, and you don't need borders and things. So here you've got 25 biscuits. Yeah, I'll eat them all. Here you've got 2 sets. So which one am I going to choose? And just by some white space, you're dividing it and giving things a natural order. Common region, borders, the dreaded border, will overwrite everything, yeah? So these are a distinct group, yeah, and you wouldn't touch them. So just to kind of go in it all, so shapes, and then by adding color, yeah, the brain starts to think in a different way. By adding a bit of proximity and a bit of white space, you start to see different groupings, and borders really will overwrite everything, okay? That doesn't mean you should put borders on everything on your dashboards or your data viz, yeah? You don't rely on borders to create structure. That is white space. Every bit of color on a screen is kind of cognitive load for your brain, so reduce it as much as you can. And everyone sees a tiger, yeah? But really that's just a bunch of squiggles, and closure is about your brain putting those squiggles into a picture and pulling out a tiger. And how can you apply this in data viz is, you know, your data viz isn't your 5-year-old's colouring book. You don't have to colour everything in, right? So would you recommend our service? Yes, no. Okay, wow. But do we really need the no? What's the point? So what percent of our customers would recommend us? 67%. Boom, it's put to bed. And then you've got the kind of the part of the donut that relates to that, and you can see that as a way to go. Yeah, you don't need an additional color there. So, you know, don't feel like you need to add color all the time. So that is a lot in probably 4 minutes. So just Google Gestalt, get your team to Google Gestalt and go and look at how they can apply it to their visualizations. Now we're thinking like a designer, we need to make numbers relatable. So Amazon rainforest is losing about 10,000 acres a day, right? Any farmers in the crowd today? Any idea what 10,000 acres is? Because I've not a Scooby, yeah? Well, it's actually 1,000 Olympias, yeah? A day, forest that size. But actually, what's 1,000 of these? It's still pretty too big to comprehend. So really, if you break it down, it means we were cutting down a forest the size of this building every 60 seconds. And by breaking it down, you make it really easy for someone to think, shit the bed, that is a lot of trees we're cutting down, okay? You see it a lot in charities, okay? So, you know, nearly 9,000 children die a year as a result of malnutrition. What a horrible number. But it's quite hard to, again, comprehend 9,000 children. You know, Christian Aid nailed this. A child dies every 10 seconds, yeah? We all know what 10 seconds is. We probably all watch the Olympics and watch 100 meters, yeah? And I'm going to click this button now, and this picture is going to disappear in 10 seconds. And in that time, a child has died from malnutrition, yeah? And there you go. A power of a relatable number, a power of a bit of drama, and you know, you're trying to get someone to act, you're trying to get someone to give you £3 basically as a donation. So we're thinking like a designer, we're making the numbers relatable, and now we're ready to kind of sell our data stories. Because it's not about telling, it's about selling. And you've got to get comfortable with being a bit of a salesperson if you work in data. So what does every story have? Characters, context, a goal, challenge and peril, and a road to resolution. Most people say it's a start and a middle and an end, but those that work in data know there's never an end to anything. So characters and the context, stick to the big players when you're talking about what you've done, okay? Actually, your CFO doesn't care about Sandra in accounts or Jeff in the warehouse. Yeah, stick to the big players. What, you know, how do they fit into the big picture, and what's the context surrounding them? The goal, what we're trying to achieve, why should they care? What's in it for them? How would it benefit them? Yeah, and if you've got to tell a different story 3 different ways to 3 different people, then do it. Challenge and peril, yeah? We've all watched Disney films, and probably 80% of it is the challenge and peril things. You know, what are the obstacles? What are the dangers? What's the impact of failure if we didn't get this right? Yeah? And road to resolution, this is where you get the old trumpet out. You know, how did we navigate the stormy waters? What did we do? Why are we so brilliant? What did we learn along the way? And how we've made their life easier. If that's a bit arty-farty for you, there's the 5 Ps for the techies, yeah? Which is people, problem, pull. Again, why did they come to me? Why do they need my skills? This isn't time to have a little violin. This is time to get the brass band out and really sing about yourself. Process, nobody cares about technical details. So we all know you're clever. Put it to bed. Talk about the business value and what was the payoff. And you've got to sell that. And so everyone, hands up if you've seen Beauty and the Beast. Yeah? So, you know, if I was telling this story to 2 different audiences, so I was trying to persuade one of my children who's really into playing with Barbies and really into dressing in pink. If I wanted to get them to watch the film, I'd say it's about a beautiful princess who's really clever. She falls in love. She saves her dad. Yeah. If I was telling it to my other son, who is probably the next generation serial killer and sets things on fire and pulls heads off toys, I'd be saying it's about this really nasty prince who gets turned into a hideous monster who can kill people with his claws, and he'd be like, yeah, and he'd start watching it, right? Same kind of story, but you've told it 2 different ways to get 2 different results. And you know, before I worked at Grainger, I worked at the NHS BSA, and there's some of you in the crowd. And yeah, clickbaity title, nothing wrong with that, yeah? It's not just for the Tories. We can all have a go. So, 1 piece of code saved the NHS 90,000 hours of GP time, yeah? What it actually did is, during the first COVID breakout, NHS England, UK government, Matt Hancock, characters, we're looking at ways to reduce footfall in GP surgeries, yeah? So there's the goal, there's the context, and there's the characters, yeah? The peril, we had vulnerable patients going into a GP, picking up the prescriptions, and potentially spreading the virus to vulnerable and elderly people. And basically, the geniuses from the BSA quickly whizzed up a SQL statement that identified the people that could go into digital, and as a result, that saw 22 million prescription items be prescribed electrical rather than people going into the GP. It saved over 96,000 hours, so it wasn't taking a GP time to sign a form, which when you break down 96,000 hours, 5 million quid in regained productivity for the NHS, and that's around 400,000 extra appointments a year. And we've all probably struggled to get a GP appointment. So again, you're kind of making it relatable to every person. So now we're thinking like a designer, now we've made the numbers relatable, and now we're ready to sell and tell our data story. Now we can fire Power BI up, yeah? And we need a checklist to make sure we're doing it right. And it's AC/DC. As a failed musician, this always comes back to music for me. So, A, action and audience, yeah? Who is this aimed at, yeah? Are they technical? Are they not? Are they going to share it? What makes them tick? You need to know who your users are. And what do you want them to do as a result of receiving the information? If it hasn't got a point, don't build it, yeah? And action, what do you want them to do? If you want them to give you extra budget or anything, make the narrative about that, yeah? Don't just give them numbers and hope they'll give you money. So that's A. C, chart. Use, do not confuse, yeah? Keep it simple, yeah? Not everyone is a data professional. We might be, we might get it, but keep it simple. I would say 80% of our data products, the final analytical tool, is made up of these, yeah? And probably the top 3. And I'll give you an example. So, you know, we've tried to make it fancy, stack bar chart, and this is returns per 1,000 sold, okay? So I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, right, Mr. Tents and Mrs. Sleeping Bag, come in my office. You're both fired because it's just going up and up and up, and it's not getting any better, right? So I fired 2 people. Actually, Mr. Tents was doing all right. Yeah, I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to go and investigate both. It was the sleeping bags that was the problem. So I've set 2 fires, two horses running here. There was only one really that we needed to point out. So you need to really be careful. Declutter. Non-data ink is another key tool that you've got. Get rid of the crap. Yeah, on here, slanted text. It takes longer to read. You know, keep it simple. Sometimes you don't even need a y-axis if you've got direct labels. You don't need both. You don't need grid lines. You definitely don't need 3D. So, you know, strip it back. The only thing on that dashboard, on that screen, should be data, not noise. And And then context and colour, okay? So £140,000 sales year to date. Well, is that good, bad, indifferent? Should I panic? Should I not? Just put a little bit of a clue, yeah? 20,000 more than last year. Okay, move on. I'll go on to the next KPI, yeah? And context. You're talking to the CFO about £1 million. They might not care, yeah? So Farmer Tom wins £1 million, he never has to work again, yeah? Puts down his shovel, he goes and lives the dream. Elon Musk sneezes and loses £1 million. So, it's completely different. So you've got to know your audience, okay? And then colour. Use colour sparingly and wisely and make it pull out what you're there to talk about, okay? So T is the only one that's gone down. Everything is there. Everything else is there for context, okay? But we're here to talk about T, yeah? And the fact it's gone down, and you've made it very clear from the get-go. So let's see the boys in action here in a few charts, okay? So line charts, yeah, typical one, straight from Excel, pretty noisy, pretty busy, no real point. Even basic stuff like reducing the amount of grid lines and making your series have direct labels can make it better, yeah? We want to read across, yeah? So if you can put direct labels on the series, do it. Actually, if you've got direct data labels on your chart, you don't need the grid lines, you don't even need the axis. Sod it, get rid of it, and use the colour to draw in, yeah? If you're there to talk about machines, talk about machines. And actually, if you're only there to talk about machines, get rid of the other crap as well, right? Keep it dead simple and draw people's attention. So this is common region again, the Gestalt principle, where you're saying, yeah, sales have been strong, but we're here to talk about these 2 dip periods, yeah? And you're really making it clear. So, yeah, line charts, if it's one line, get rid of all the noise, no y-axis, trend lines, if applicable, multiple lines, make sure you have got direct series labels on and minimize those grid lines, okay? Horizontal bars, my absolute favorite, yeah? One thing we're criminal at is not ordering your axis, yeah? So if there's no natural order it by the data. So, and I'll come on to that in a second. So here, now we've got an order, yeah, based on the value. And that Gestalt principle, we read down. So if you need your top 3, you start at the top and you read down. It's really easy. Whereas EPCs, there's a natural order to that category. So then you want to keep that in order. And then again, remove non-data inc, add the labels on. Again, you don't need any of this. You don't need grid lines. Use focus where required. It's really basic. So again, just order it properly. Again, when you've got, we've only got 4 categories here, but if you've got 10, you can have a top 10. You can see that it goes down, and your natural eye line will know that you can just read down for the top 3. Column charts, the same really. We did a lot of this at the NHS. Kind of variables over time, strip it back. Again, grid lines, non-data inc, get rid of it all. If there's no order, you're asking for people to do this with their eyes, and they will get tired and walk away. So you've got to make it easy for people, yeah? So just by ordering it, then you can find your hospital or whatever it is, and then you can sync in and you can benchmark yourself against everyone else. And that's what we used to do at the NHS. It was really powerful, okay? So, push all the data to the back. We're here to talk about Blackpool. Blackpool are doing well because there's only 4 people per 1,000 on drug X, yeah? And we're going to compare it against the other seaside towns, yeah? There's the main comparison, and the rest is there for context only. But you're pulling it out and pulling it forward for someone to look at. And even if you've got loads of data points, that is still a really clever technique of benchmarking hospitals, hotels, salespeople against each other and saying, where are you? You're mid-table mediocre? Okay, fine. So, yeah, it's about going from useless to useful, pushing things into the back, bringing it forward, and making it easier for your users. Performance tiles, same again. Keep it simple, small numbers, give some context. Don't just rely on icons or color to say whether it's good or bad. Try and add the text. And spark lines can be useful. They can be noise as well, to be honest. Scatter charts, you've got to really know about your audience and whether they are semi-data savvy, yeah? So, this is house size against carbon output, okay? So, adding basic trend lines, is a Gestalt principle, and it allows users to see where it's going, again, giving them a bit of a help. Color can, I mean, it's a horrible chart, this, I do apologize. But, the color adds real depth here and allows users to see the trend and the pattern in the data, okay? So that can be really, really useful in scatter charts. If you start to play with color and size, I think you're going to lose people, yeah? I think you're trying to do too much in one chart, and you're going to confuse people. So again, think about what you're doing. If it's going to take 2 or 3 charts to explain it, do it. Don't try and do it in one, okay? Pie charts best practice? Probably none, right? They are terrible. Hands up if you love a pie chart. No, good. No, so, the way we read pie charts is we're asking people to measure the curvature of these lines. And you think, well, you're asking people to measure the curvature of a line. Why not just get them to measure a line? Yeah? So, this is absolutely no point. If you want the top 2 of the biggest rivals to Samsung, actually, you're having to play eyeball pinball and kind of look at the curve, look at the label. You're all over the place. The colors are absolutely meaningless, but you need them in a pie chart. Whereas over here, you've kept it simple. You can read down, and it's in context. Yeah? And like I said before, the compromise really is, if you're going to use it for a binary thing, yes, no, yeah, us, them, then you can probably get away with it. But it's got to play second fiddle, yeah? It can't be the main thing. It's there as a kind of cognitive tip, but really 67%, like we said before. And breathe, that is a lot of talking, and I am absolutely knackered and ready for my lunch. But really, what I wanted you to take away is, are we doing the basics right, and can we do them better? So yeah, challenge yourself, challenge your teams, get them to understand Gestalt, get them to understand, are they making the data relatable and easy to consume? Are they building the right viz for the right people for the right purpose, yeah? AC/DC. And get comfortable selling and telling those stories. Otherwise, you're on a hiding for nothing. And that's me. If you want to say hello, say hello. And if you want to hear me whinge about pie charts, you can find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, cheers and enjoy the rest of your day.